satisfying week of your presidency?
Well, it was certainly one of the most satisfying weeks, not only for my presidency, but I think for the United States since I've been president. Obviously, bin Laden had been not only a symbol of terrorism, but a mass murderer who's had eluded justice for so long, and so many families who had been affected, I think, had given up hope. And for us to be able to definitively say, we got the man who caused thousands of deaths here in the United States, was something that I think all of us were profoundly grateful to be a part of.
Was the decision to launch this attack the most difficult decision that you've made as Commander-in-Chief?
Certainly one. Every time I send young men and women into a war theater, that's a tough decision. And whenever you write a letter to a family who's lost a loved one, it's sobering. This was a very difficult decision, in part because the evidence that we had was not absolutely conclusive. This was circumstantial evidence that he was going to be there. Obviously, it entailed enormous risk to the guys that I sent in there. But ultimately, I had so much confidence in the capacity of our guys to carry out the mission that I felt that the risks were outweighed by the potential benefit of us finally getting our man.
How much of it was gut instinct?
The thing about gut instinct is if it works, then you think, boy, I had good instincts. If it doesn't, then you're going to be running back in your mind all the things that told you maybe you shouldn't have done it. Obviously, I had enough of an instinct that we could be right, that it was worth doing.
When the CIA first brought this information to you,
right,
what was your reaction? Was there a sense of excitement? Did this look promising from the very beginning?
It did look promising from the beginning. I keep in mind that obviously when I was still campaigning for president, I had said that if I ever get a shot at bin Laden, we're going to take it. And I was subject to some criticism at the time because I had said, if it's in Pakistan and we don't have the ability to capture him in any other way, then we're going to go ahead and take the shot. So I felt very strongly that there was a strategic imperative for us to go after him. Shortly after I got into office, I brought Leon Panetta privately into the Oval Office, and I said to him, we need to redouble our efforts in hunting bin Laden down. So by the time they came to me, they had worked up a image of the compound, where it was, and the factors that led them to conclude that this was the best evidence that we had regarding bin Laden's whereabouts since Tora Bora. But we didn't have a photograph of bin Laden in that building. There was no direct evidence of his presence. And so the CIA continued to build the case meticulously over the course of several months. What I told them when they first came to me with this evidence was, even as you guys are building a stronger intelligence case, let's also start building an action plan to figure out if, in fact, we make a decision that this is him or we've got a good chance that we've got him, how are we going to deal with him?
When was that, when you set that plan in motion?
Well, they first came to me in August of last year with evidence of the compound. And they said that they had more work to do on it, but at that point they had enough that they felt that it was appropriate for us to start doing some planning. And so from that point on, we started looking at what our options might be. The vigorous planning did not begin until early this year. And obviously over the last 2 months, it's been very intensive, in which not only did an action plan get developed, but our guys actually started practicing being able to execute.
How actively were you involved in that process?
About as active as any project that I've been involved with since I've been president. Obviously, we have extraordinary guys. Our special forces are the best of the best. And so I was not involved in designing the initial plan, but each iteration of that plan they'd bring back to me, make a full presentation. We would ask questions. We had multiple meetings in the Situation Room in which we would map out, and we would actually have a model of the compound and discuss how this operation might proceed and what various options there were, because there was more than one way in which we might go about this. And in some ways, sending in choppers and actually putting our guys on the ground entailed some greater risks than some other options. I thought it was important, though, for us to be able to say that we definitely got the guy. It was important for us to be able to exploit potential information that was on the ground in the compound if it did turn out to be him. We thought that it was important for us not only to protect the lives of our guys, but also to try to minimize collateral damage in the region, because this was in a residential neighborhood. I mean, one of the ironies of this is, I think the image that bin Laden had tried to promote was that he was an ascetic living in a cave. This guy was living in $1 million compound in a residential neighborhood.
Were you surprised when they came to you with this compound right in the middle of sort of the military center of Pakistan?
There had been discussions that this guy might be hiding in plain sight, and we knew that some al-Qaeda operatives, high-level targets, basically just blended into the crowd like this. I think we were surprised when we learned that this compound had been there for 5 or 6 years, and that it was in an area in which you would think that potentially he would attract some attention. So yes, the answer is that we were surprised that he could maintain a compound like that for that long without there being a tip-off.
Do you believe it was built for him?
We are still investigating that, but what is clear is that the elements of the compound were structured so that nobody could see in. There were no sight lines that would enable somebody walking by or somebody in an adjoining building to see him. So it was clearly designed to make sure that bin Laden was protected from public view.
Do you have any idea how long he was there?
We know he was there at least 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Did he move out of that compound?
That we don't know yet. But we know that for 5 to 6 years, this compound was there, and our belief is that he was there during that time.
This was your decision,
Yeah.
whether to proceed or not and how to proceed. What was the most difficult part of that decision?
The most difficult part is always the fact that you're sending guys into harm's way, and there are a lot of things that could go wrong. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts here. So my biggest concern was, if I'm sending those guys in and Murphy's Law applies and something happens, can we still get our guys out? So that's point number one. These guys are going in the darkest of night, and they don't know what they're going to find there. They don't know if the building is rigged. They don't know if there are explosives that are triggered by a particular door opening. So huge risks that these guys are taking. And so my number one concern was, if I send them in, can I get them out? Point number two was, as outstanding a job as our intelligence teams did, slenderest of bits of information to piece this all together. At the end of the day, this was still a 55-45 situation. I mean, we could not say definitively that bin Laden was there. Had he not been there, then there would have been some significant consequences. Obviously, we're going into the sovereign territory of another country and landing helicopters and conducting a military operation. And so if it turns out that it's a wealthy prince from Dubai who's in this compound, and we've sent special forces in, we've got problems. So there were risks involved geopolitically in making the decision, but my number one concern was, can our guys get in and get out safely? The fact that our special forces have become so good, these guys perform at levels that 20, 30 years ago would not have happened. I think finally gave me the confidence to say, let's go ahead.
I mean, it's been reported that there was some resistance from advisors and planners who disagreed with the commando raid approach. Was it difficult for you to overcome that?
One of the things that we've done here is to build a team that is collegial and where everybody speaks their mind. And there's not a lot of sniping or backbiting after the fact. And what I've tried to do is make sure that every time I sit down in the Situation Room, every one of my advisors around there knows I expect them to give me their best assessments. And so the fact that there were some who voiced doubts about this approach was invaluable because it meant the plan was sharper. It meant that we had thought through all of our options. It meant that when I finally did make the decision, I was making it based on the very best information.